Hey friends, my name's Stevie Taylor. Welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. My guest today is guitarist and vocalist Jay Parrino. Now, Jay first came to public attention in 2009 as a finalist on Australia's Got Talent. His unique version of the Men at Work classic Down Under quickly reached 6 million hits on YouTube. Since being on the show, Jay's also gone on to be a contestant on The Voice, a judge on All Together Now. He writes and records music for his band Outlier, which you can hear playing right now. As well as he plays and sings with many other projects. In this chat, Jay gives us a real insight into the inner workings of some of these reality music shows. It's really interesting stuff. Jay has also made social media really work for him. We get into that a bit too. So hope you really enjoy this one. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Jay Parrino. Cheers. I think we're rolling. Jay Parrino. Welcome to the Gig Life Podcast.
Welcome to my bachelor pad.
Lovely, man. We're watching the soccer practice over there.
Yeah.
I'm just getting some tips because I've just been roped into coaching my daughter's soccer team this year.
Okay.
Haven't done it before.
Have you played though?
Oh, when I was young.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old are we talking? Your daughter.
Oh, I thought you were talking when did I play?
Oh, both.
My daughter's she's playing under 11s.
Under 11s.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I maybe have been that age too when I played, but
yeah,
should be right. I'll just get some tips over there.
Yeah, just got to be patient.
That's it, man.
At that age.
That's it. I mean, yeah. See how we go.
I had guitar students that were probably like 6, 7.
Yeah.
And just like keeping their attention for half an hour, like after 5 minutes on one topic, they're elsewhere.
They're else. Yeah, it's hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age of distractions.
I know.
The attention span is gone.
We had our first training last week and it was like I had this idea in my head that they'll all be standing around me when I call them over. It just didn't happen. First 10 minutes is sort of get them to come over.
It looks so good on the paper.
I know, eh? Yeah, and I had it all timed out and everything.
Yeah.
All good. So what have you been up to, man? You're currently touring around doing the Eric Clapton, Paul McCartney thing. So tell us a bit about that and then we'll roll back.
Yeah, sure. Well, so I do lots of the pub, just standard covers, gigs and weddings, and that's sort of my meat and potatoes of what pays my bills. But my main goal in the last couple of years was to get out of that a little bit and more into like the actual club and theatre shows where people are paying to come and see you and listen to you, and you got an attentive audience.
Yep.
Not that there's anything wrong with playing to a drunk crowd of people on the dance floor that are having a great time. I've had some of the best nights of my life doing stuff like that. But it does feel good to, spend some time learning a repertoire and, have costume changes and have a big screen behind you and just be part of something, that's had a lot of time and effort put into it, and that people, that they've paid money to come and see you and sit there and watch it and appreciate it and hear that applause after every song. Yeah. People don't clap anymore in pubs.
Yeah, no, they don't.
They'll hear you play and they'll dance and they'll sing and then next.
Yeah, well, it's their time to pick up and check Facebook and see if they've been tagged.
That's it.
Yeah.
So there's two of those. The one that you mentioned is called Guitars Gently Weep, and that's my sort of show that I put together. Started that probably, over a year ago. And I approached Brett Williams from the Choir Boys about doing it after I had done a couple of gigs with his band. And, oh, man, he's just the sweetest, nicest guy in the world. We ended up becoming really good mates. And so we spent about a year and a half, he and I and Bobby Poulton from the Frankie's band. Yep. He's the other sort of key member. He plays the Jack Bruce part in the Cream stuff. He's a freak, so really lucky to have those two as sort of my core players, and then keyboards and drums would sort of rotate depending on who's around. We did it with Fabrizio a few times, Andreas Hyde on drums a few times. Just sort of just depends who's available on a given day. Yep. So that's my baby. But then this year I got approached, or late last year I got approached about doing this thing called Listen to the Movies, which is it's a really cool idea. The brainchild of Tom Ferris and Andrew O. And Tom's a incredible, session guitar player that's, worked with some really established artists, and he's done music for like the soundtracks of the Australia, that Hugh Jackman movie. So he did Carols in the Domain for years. So he's really at that sort of elite level of local guitar players, who are one of the most respected guys around. So this is their show that they put together, and they needed a male vocal that could do some guitar for that show. And so my name sort of came up in the mix somehow, very luckily. And it's cool, like most of what I've done my whole career has been stuff that I've been in the driver's seat for, been in control of. And this is their baby, and I come in and do a few songs here and there. So it's amazing, man. So for the most part of the show, I just sit backstage and watch it on the screen, and I'm awestruck. Like, these guys are playing with a 8-piece band. They're playing, Jaws, and
I saw the little promo for it.
It's ridiculous.
The Jaws thing.
I don't envy like the workload that Tom and the boys, because they're essentially playing 30 and 40-piece orchestra parts for a 7 or 8-piece band. So he's got the guitar synth going with strings in there, and Andrew's got the aerophone, which is a Roland thing which can play, it can control other sounds. And the keyboardist has got two keyboards going. Robbie on percussion's got timpanis and all these things programmed into his drum pad. So everyone's it's like sort of being in a trio where everyone's like got a huge role. Yeah, it's just slightly expanded. So it's incredible. I'm just in awe for the most part, and incredibly like grateful that they asked me to do it. Yeah, I'm probably the youngest by 13 or 14 years. Yeah. A little bit out of my element, but I'll try my best to keep up with them.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, you said just as you're going into that, all the stuff that you've done before, you've kind of had the control of, and it's been your thing. So how does it feel to kind of take a back seat?
Yeah, it's different. I have to stop myself sometimes. I've got so many ideas, and I'm a control freak, and
right.
Luckily, like, these guys, I've suggested some things to them, and they've taken it on board. Like I said to Tom, just in passing via text message after the first gig, I said, we should do Deliverance, dueling banjos. I said, do you have a good banjo patch on your synth controller? And he didn't write back. He's not really from the text messaging generation, I guess. And I was like, I guess he didn't like that idea.
Who's this guy?
Yeah. And I thought, it's not my show. I'll stay out of it. Yeah. But then sure enough, like, I think it might have been like 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, I got a call from him because, right. His generation calls. Right. My generation we don't call. But when he calls, I pick up, hey, it's Tom. Yeah, I've got my banjo out, and I've been working on dueling banjos, and man, it's really hard, and we're going to include it in the show. I'm like,
fantastic!
No, can't believe you actually listened to me, and he's actually got the actual banjo, not the synth. Right. So now I open my big mouth, and now I need to learn the guitar part for it. But the banjo part in that song is freaking. That's he's got the heavy lifting again, and I'm sort of it's all that rolling crazy stuff. Right. In Deliverance, yeah. So, yeah, it's cool. So I do have to take a back seat and it's their baby. But and the times that I've had a couple of suggestions, like a funny thing is Andrew, the sax player, he was actually the sax player. I don't know if you've seen the movie Mad Max Thunderdome. Yeah. There's a character in there. What's his like? Tattoo Tonton or something like that. He's the naked sax player with the G string with the ping pong eyes. That's Andrew.
Oh, is that right? Oh, wow.
So he got this when he first moved to Australia. He signed up to an agency, and the agency said, "There's this movie looking for a sax player," and he didn't know anything about it. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And he's like, "Yeah, well, they want you to wear a sumo thong, and they want you to shave your head, and they want you to put ping pong balls in your eyes. Oh, and they want to shoot an arrow into your sax." So being a hardworking musician that needed money in the time is like, yep, I'll do that.
Take that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The only thing he did was went and bought a cheap sax so that
I was
they
gonna
could
say.
shoot an arrow into it. But I said to Andrew when I found this out, because I was doing a gig with Jason Thornton, another sax player, and Jason's like, oh, that's Andrew that's in Mad Max. And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, why aren't we talking about this in the show? So I said to Andrew, I said, mate, whatever you do, when it gets to that song, you need to put some footage of you in that scene, and you need to talk about it because that's an incredible story. Yeah. And he listened to me, and it's like the highlight of the show now because there's all this very Harry Potter and very serious music and The Exorcist and Gladiator, and then it gets to this Mad Max moment, and here's a guy like sort of opening up to you and saying, well, this is something kind of embarrassing I did in the 80s, and here's a picture of me in my undies.
Yeah, great.
So, yeah, they take my stuff on board, which is not everybody does. Some other shows I've done, I've suggested things and I've gotten replies of like, yeah, nah.
Yeah.
Instead of nah, yeah.
Yeah, well, at least you got a reply, I suppose, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed a bit too, like that kind of thing's a bit more prevalent now with the, bands playing movies because it happens a lot with the symphony orchestra now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that stuff at the Opera House where they'll play a movie and have a live band.
Do you know Jess Jumper? He's a percussionist.
I know the name.
Yeah, well, he was a guest sort of late last year, and he's in the symphony orchestra as a percussionist, and he was telling me about all these shows that he does. He said it's incredible. It's amazing. You get to recreate that music. While the screen's behind you, and there's hundreds of people up in the.
It's just so powerful,
yeah.
And the power that it has to take you back to the first time.
To the time you heard it.
Saw
Exactly.
It, or,
exactly.
Who you were with at the cinema when you watched it.
Yeah,
it's a very powerful thing. Yeah,
yep.
I've always had a fascination. We were kind of, as a little gimmick, always sliding movie themes into like guitar solos of our songs. So we would play, Valerie, and I would suddenly do like the Mario Brothers theme in the solo, or Tainted Love, and I'd play a riff from The Simpsons or something. So I've always been really fascinated by film music and just seeing who notices and things like that. So this is kind of a dream gig for me.
Yeah, that's great.
And the band is awesome. Like Carmel Massetti is the other vocalist, and she's a freak. And we did The Voice together. Her and I were there on the same day, so spent like 12 hours waiting around at Fox Studios all day. And I went and had a singing lesson with her a couple of days ago, actually. She's just a lovely lady, but a monster, like nails everything, and she works for Joseph Calderazzo and all the big productions in town. She does BVs for Doug Parkinson, gigs like that. So you can see why people keep calling her up because she's a monster vocalist.
And Leon Gare's bass player,
yeah, far out.
Well, far out, all right. There's some history there, man.
Yeah, I just find myself fanboying sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, Mark Costa, who you spoke to, he introduced me to Gino Vanelli and Brother to Brother and all that stuff.
Yep.
I was a huge fan of that record, and then we're doing the gig at the end of the night. Andrew introduces the band and says that, some credits that people have, and this is Leon on the bass. He's played with Aretha Franklin, and he recorded on Gino Vanelli's album, and I'm like, my jaw like hits the floor. Like, I freaking love that album.
I only found that out the other day too. We had a
that he played on it?
Yeah, we had a Drummers Hang podcast episode last week with a few guys, and one of the topics was what was a cornerstone album that when you heard that drummer, it made you change the direction where you want to go and play a certain kind of way, and mine was Gino Vanelli Nightwalker.
Okay.
And then
who played drums on that? Do you know?
Vinny.
Okay.
Yeah, Vinny Colaiuta. And then someone else suggested Brother to Brother, and then they said Leon Gare played bass on it, and I went, what, really?
Yeah.
Far out, it's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, you can see why I feel very out of my depth in this band. Like, there's just some ridiculous talent in there. And he's just a really sweet guy.
Yeah.
The start of the show was at the Panthers Evans Theatre, so we've got this whole, like, downstairs dressing room area. I don't know if you saw the photo, but he just comes out wearing a Superwoman skirt and tights with no explanation. And I still don't have an explanation as to where it came from or why. And just stood there, posted some photo. I said, do you mind if I post this? And he's like, he's American accent. Yeah, go for it. Post it.
Yeah.
And then disappears, comes back in his suit, and it was never spoken of again.
What was the caption? Played with Aretha. Aretha, so he feels like a woman.
He knows how to feel like a natural woman.
Natural woman, that's the one. Cool, man. All right.
What a character.
Yeah. All right, let's roll right back early days, man. So you born in Sydney?
Yep.
Around Northern Beaches?
I was born in Hornsby Hospital.
Hornsby, yep.
And grew up in Barara, which is not far from there. Mm-hmm. And my parents are still up there in the family home.
Yep.
Wogs never leave the family home.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So
Parrino, is that Italian?
It's Italian.
Okay,
yeah. Both parents are Sicilian born.
Yeah, okay, yep.
They came over separately in their early teens. Or the grandparents migrated. So what would happen in those days is your nonna or your grandfather would go first, save enough money, and send it back and send the family over by boat. So they did that. Both families did that. Both Italian parents. I've got one sister. Nobody in the family is musical whatsoever.
That was my next question. Yeah.
Except for really my dad's dad was a fantastic organ player in the church. So I guess it skipped a generation.
Yep.
There was instruments around the house. Like my dad had an acoustic guitar that would sit around. There was a piano that my sister tried for a little while but didn't stick with it. So there was things around, but we certainly weren't a musical family by any stretch. And I really got into it sort of by a strange coincidence, just that I was getting in so much trouble at school all the time. Which now they call it ADD. Back then it was just you're a little shit,
Right. Yep.
They didn't have a name for it. It was constantly detention and answering back to teachers and couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus, getting in fights. Just every possible thing that I could get in trouble for, I was finding a way to do so. And so we went to a few different specialist doctors. And the first thing that happened was they decided to test my reading level, and I was reading a little bit ahead and doing maths and that a little bit ahead of the age that I was at. So what I was able to do was skip from year 3 to year 5. So I completely skipped year 4, which means I don't have a pen license. I'm an unlicensed writer.
Right.
That was a thing back then. Like they'd give you a pen license in year 4.
Yeah.
So I'm not qualified for that. But then, anyway, so skipped from the end of year 3 at my primary school, basically got expelled. They didn't want to have me back. So my parents were like, well, what should we do? And the high school that I went to, St. Pius, had a year 5 and 6 that you could do year 5 and 6 there and then continue on and do your rest of your high school there. So we skipped from year 3 in primary school up in Barara to year 5 at St. Pius in Chatswood. And the other suggestion from the doctors was extracurricular, music, sport, as much stuff as you can to, really get your mind, distracted and things that will put your energy into so you're not bored. So taking up an instrument.
Do you remember your mindsets though?
Back then?
Yeah.
I was bordering a psychopath, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't really relate to how I was back then. Just very hyperactive, couldn't tell right from wrong.
Right.
Just constantly, just brain bouncing around all over the place. And this is pre coming to year 5. Then I started to, I was only 10, 11 years old, so I'm just a kid. I didn't have a good sense of morals or right from wrong. It was just whatever. I guess a lot of kids are like that, but maybe they don't have as wicked ideas as I did.
Right.
But whatever idea popped into my head, I would just instinctually act on it, which can be a beautiful thing for a child. And if you can direct it into positive ways, which I figured out how to do, it's a great thing. You become a talented sportsman or musician or whatever, and the honesty that can flow out of you is great. But at the time, the stuff that was coming out of me was not so good.
Right.
And that was the ADD and not having a good understanding of that and not having and I guess being smarter than the other kids. I was bored a lot of the time, which they figured out. And so once year 5 hit, suddenly I'm around kids that are a year older than me. So a year of growth at that time is like, probably 10 kilos and a few inches. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
I couldn't really bully or pick on other kids anymore. So that was one thing that got me into line. But the other thing was I met Simon Fishburne, and who you had on your podcast recently, and started drum lessons with him. And I found that to be a great physical outlet for all this energy that I had. And I really got into this routine of just practicing every day and just, I don't know, seeing the stuff that you can do at home in private, put the hours in, that can accumulate and build up and have this result that you can show to people, and at the end of your concert or at the school dance you can play. And I have this light bulb moment. I remember seeing this guitarist called Simon Relf in the school band, and he played Smooth by Santana, and I was just like, all right, that's what I want to do.
Right.
And I haven't looked back really. Like,
how far into drums were you? How far did you get into it? How many years?
From the age of 11 to about, well, pretty much through high school, but then I started transitioning into playing other things as well.
Yep.
So from 11 till 17, 18,
Right.
I got quite decent. I was probably the best drummer at the school at the time, and we got to do some incredible things. Like we competed in the Pacific Basin Music Festival, which is in Hawaii. So we got to go over there, and I got to play drums in this school band and be on holiday with my best friends in fancy hotels in Hawaii. Like, so it was an incredible ride, a great music program, and some friends that I'm still in touch with to this day were in that band. So that's some cool stuff. And obviously I was doing the originals garage band thing as well back then, like playing heavy metal songs and stuff. Mm-hmm. I look back on those times very fondly still.
Fantastic. And who were the drummers that inspired you back then?
Sort of socially, or the high level?
Oh, both. Who were you listening to? Who were you inspired by?
Well, I had some obviously friends at school that were ahead of me, and that these were like the cool kids in the cool music group, and I was like, okay, I want to get better,
be like you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was so far behind them, but in a short time ended up overtaking them. So that was one motivating factor, is just, I guess, the competitive sort of spirit of it. Like, if I work such and such hours, I'm going to be able to catch up to these guys. But then from a professional level, I really got into what was popular at the time, like Travis Barker.
Yep.
It ended up being in Blink-182.
Yep.
Chad Smith, Chili Peppers, Lars from Metallica. So it was a lot of that sort of funk and rock type stuff.
Yep.
Vinnie Colaiuta, who you mentioned, Steve Gadd, Dave Weckl, all sorts. Yeah. Simon really introduced me to a lot of that stuff, because a 12-year-old wouldn't really be listening to any of that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
He got me into some good practice routines, and he got me all the right books, like the I think it was the Calm Inner Peace book. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, he had all the right tips to get me, and I think that's really important, like your first teacher, because if he hadn't been someone I really clicked with and gotten me into music that I liked, I might have just gotten bored like my sister did with piano and not stuck with it. So that's why I said to you, I think before we started recording, I said it was like a full circle moment to catch up with Simon recently and do gigs with him, because that very first influence that you have can be crucial. Mm-hmm. And I have students' parents that come up to me. There's one in particular, I see her at DYRSL, and I was her daughter's first guitar teacher. And she said to me, after you stopped teaching her, she never liked any of the other teachers she went with, and she gave it up, which is, it's flattering to me, but it's sad at the same time, because if you don't have those nurturing influences that keep you motivated, you're not going to stick with it. It's kind of a shame, but...
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I was lucky. I always had great teachers. And even if you only picked up, one or two things from each teacher, whether it was singing or guitar, there's just the little light bulb moments where something they say, you go, oh, it's that. And it clicks and it sticks with you. So, yeah.
Cool, man. All right. And did you start guitar lessons straight away, or were kind of self-teaching yourself?
So I went from drums exclusively for a few years.
Yep.
And then in the school band in Hawaii, and that I mentioned to you, I found myself just constantly looking over to the bass player, who's his name's Pat Taylor. He's in a heavy metal band now called Sumeru. And so that just got me into the bass. So that started that progression from drums into stringed instruments. And we had the acoustic guitar in the house. So I took the two highest strings off the acoustic and just used to play it like a bass. Mm-hmm. And then from there, just, more and more curiosity, like, okay, so this thing can do chords as well. And like, okay, like this thing can do solos too, and this can be accompaniment, and I can make it sound like the thing that's on that record. So the curiosity just kept going.
And that was you working that stuff out yourself?
Yeah, because there was not internet at the time.
Yep.
There was not YouTube or any way to sort of access how to do these things.
And no teaching yet? No teachers?
Of guitar, quite a lot of it I did myself first.
Yep.
And then my parents saw like, oh, he's getting pretty serious into this. So then for a while I was doubling up and doing drum and guitar lessons. And then I think I kept doing that throughout high school, doubling up, doing both. And then high school finished and it came to like, all right, what do you want to do? And so I decided to I went to AIM to do the music course. Mm-hmm. And because there was no one really singing at the time in high school, like singing was a very uncool thing to do.
Right.
I started being the singer in the local cover bands or whatever was happening. I was playing guitar. I was like, well, no one wants to sing, so I may as well give this a go. So when I went to AIM, I felt that singing was my weakest point because I'd started at the latest. So I majored in contemporary voice at AIM, but also kept up guitar lessons with some of the teachers at AIM, some great jazz players, Tim Rollinson and Sam Rollings and Jeremy Sawkins, a few of the teachers that were there at the time. And that's my degree there. So I spent
very cool.
4 years straight out of high school doing that.
And Mark Costa was one of the teachers, eh?
Mark wasn't a one-on-one teacher, but he taught, I think
school.
It was called ensemble.
Yep. So
I had ensemble class with him, that was great because he would be in the band as well. Ensemble was like a practice band. So it was getting to play in a band with Mark Costa, who's, as you know, like one of the best bass players in the country. Mm-hmm. That's a great learning experience for a young up-and-coming musician. And he's just such a sweet guy. And his wife at the time, I don't think they're together anymore, but Tracy Costa was my vocal teacher. And she gave me a lot of those light bulb moments where she was able to help me. Because when you start singing so late and your voice is broken, I feel I was very behind, and I didn't come from having a pitched instrument. I came from drums, so all this singing stuff, singing notes, and working out how to extend your range. This was all very new to me. I was very, very green, and I sounded fucking terrible. But she really was one teacher that helped me a whole lot.
Now, were you playing in you were saying earlier you're playing in your sort of garage band stuff. Did that keep up while you were at AIM? Yep.
So I've been in this band that sort of just stayed under the one name of Outlier.
Outlier, yep.
Yeah. And it's gone through a few different incarnations. The first one, we spent about 10 years together, which was coming out of high school, and then the guys came to AIM as well. So it was myself and a bass player and a drummer, all boys, and we stayed together till about 2000, pretty much until I graduated, I think. And then you get to that age where, you're going your separate ways and everyone's getting jobs and things like that, and the band
just move on.
Yeah, it fell apart. And I was really lucky that as that fell apart, I met the bass player who's stayed with me ever since then, which is now coming up to about 11 years, and her name's Taya. And Rosie, she was a drum student of mine, actually, and I was...
Oh, you taught drums as well?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was teaching at Hornsby Academy of Music.
Right.
And she was coming in and doing her HSC at the time, and you helped them develop some performance pieces for their recital. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be interesting, 16, 17-year-old girl wants to do HSC. And she brings me Tool, Schism, Dream Theater, Overture 1928, and something else I can't remember. These really complicated progressive rock time signature changing pieces. And I'm like, what? You can play this? She could already play before she came to me. I helped her, understand the time signatures and the pieces and stuff. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like, "Do you want to audition for my band?" And yeah, she nailed the audition. And looking back, what's that? Yeah, like 11, 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm still in the band today.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And what year did you come out of AIM?
2006 was the last year.
Right.
Yeah, so I finished high school in 2002 and then spent 03, 04, 05, 06. The next 4 years was all at AIM.
Yep.
And graduated. I think the ceremony was at the start of 07.
Right. Did you have an idea of what you were going to do as soon as you graduated? Were you playing a lot of gigs at that stage?
I wasn't, no.
Yep.
I don't think I did because you're just so immersed in cramming all that information into your head. I think I still probably had the dream of that the Originals band, because we had spent 10 years of our lives, working really hard at it, recording albums, tours, opening for people, doing all the things that original bands do.
Any sort of record label interest or?
A little bit, nothing major. I think we did some showcases for Sony.
Okay.
There was some indie labels at that time, but nothing ever really amounted to anything. And then later on when I was with the girls, we kind of got screwed by an independent label that we invested a bit of money in, and they turned out to be con artists. So I don't know, you can look at those things and get really angry. You can say it was all part of the master plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Originals thing, I never really was a natural lyricist or natural songwriter. I've been able to write some songs that I think were all right, but I'm not someone that wakes up every day and gets the pad out. And it's
it's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I consider myself more of just a guitarist. Every day I get up and pick up the guitar and I love to play it, and I love to entertain people and, like I said, be on stage and be part of shows where people are listening. And whether that's playing something I've written or a tune that I've done an arrangement of or just a cover song, that's what I get the biggest kick out of at the moment, yeah.
So when you came out of AIM, what did you do?
Really annoyed my mum by just sitting around at home too much, and I didn't have a plan. I was teaching, so I was...
You're teaching, okay.
Yeah. I had, at one stage, 7 days a week of students. I would be at... It's called Big Music at Crow's Nest now. It was around the corner. It was called Harbour Music at the time, and I was teaching there. I was teaching at the Hornsby Academy, and I was teaching privately. I had kids coming to my place and doing drum lessons and guitar lessons and singing lessons, all that sort of stuff. And then as the band fell apart, which was probably 2008, thereabouts, then I started to have a plan B, because my whole life had been invested in this band. We'd spent so much money on recording and touring and everything, and now it's gone. These guys they wanted to do another thing, change the name, and I wasn't into what.
So it wasn't a happy split type thing?
No,
okay.
It wasn't amicable.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some bad things said and bad blood, and it ended really badly, which sucks. But
and it's still that way?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, it's never quite been resolved.
Well, hopefully down the track.
Except for we ended up recruiting a keyboardist, and him and I had no bad blood, and we've remained really good friends. His name's Taras, and he ended up working with the band Sticky Fingers, and he doesn't enjoy touring, so he's not in the band as a touring guy, but he writes a lot of their songs.
Yep.
He's got a gold aria on his wall for, I think, Caress Your Soul, a song that he co-wrote with them. So I'm really proud of him that he kept with music, and he's just one of those people that we just from the first day connected, and it stayed that way and had no bad blood, which is ironic because he was kind of the reason the band split up.
Oh, right.
he came into the band, and then they were like, oh, well, we want to do this new synth-based music thing that he's influencing. And
right.
Anyway, yeah, he's a lovely guy. But so that all fell apart, and I found myself at 23 for the first time, as a solo artist, no band, no one around me, which was kind of weird. And that's when auditioned for Australia's Got Talent. I think that same year,
right?
Just out of the blue. Well, I didn't even own an acoustic, not a good one back then. So I think I just.
So how did the audition come about? Did you seek it out? Did the ad pop up somewhere? Someone tell you about it, or? I'm curious as to how those things go down.
Yeah, I know that the idea musically came from just having the Boss DD7, I think, delay, which had a hold feature on it, which essentially was a looper. So you could hold down the pedal, and it would take whatever idea you played, and then just loop it back around. And I used to just play around with this looper and just build up these orchestrations of things. And I thought, that's really cool. Like they should have a pedal that does just that. And of course they did, but I didn't know about it.
Right.
And so I can't remember. It must have been, I think the internet had come around by 2009, so I might have seen the ad online. So using that looper, or not, it wasn't a looper, using that delay pedal, I did a version of Hit the Road Jack, where I bashed out a beat and recorded some vocal looping harmonies and made a little one-man band version of that. And it was very poorly filmed and everything, but I sent that to them, to Australia's Got Talent. So I must have seen their application online or something. But it's kind of strange because I had never thought to do anything like that. But I think those kind of shows, obviously Idol had been around since 2003. So those kind of shows were a big part of pop culture at that time.
Was that the first year of Australia's Got Talent?
Mine was the third.
Third, okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was season 3.
Okay.
And also YouTube was just starting to become a really big deal. That same year was the year that Susan Boyle
right. Oh, right,
blew
okay.
up, and Paul Potts and Adam Lambert. All these people all over the world were just becoming viral sensations from Britain's Got Talent and America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
So I think that probably was maybe the catalyst of me being curious. Oh, maybe I could go on one of these things. Because I don't have a band. So I had never really been super confident as a singer, and definitely never as a solo artist because I had never tried it. So it was just something to, I guess, boost my confidence, or a challenge that if you sign up for this, you're going to have to work your butt off and get good. And I probably needed some. It's good to have those motivating factors. It's good to have. In my case, I got really good feedback. But if it had been bad feedback, then I could have taken that on board and taken those things and used them to get better. Because a lot of the time, the feedback that you get is not what you want to hear. I distinctly remember, if you go back just a couple of years, at my cat's just going to make some noise. What do you want?
I've got cats. A couple of my cats have quite a few times made a nuisance of themselves when I've interviewed people at home.
Okay. He's scared of you, that's why
right.
he poked his head in and he poked it back out. So at the end of my degree, we do a recital where you show everything that you've learned in the past 4 years. And one of the teachers, I won't name him, at the end of my recital came up to me and I said, "What do you think?" I was so proud of myself. I thought I'd done really well. He said, "Mate, your guitar playing was awesome, but you should get a shit hot singer for your band. That's what it's missing." And I was the singer. So that crushed me, I'd just done a 4-year degree, and to have this teacher that I looked up to basically say, "You don't really cut it as a singer." And he was right. I wasn't very good. It's not what I wanted to hear at the time. It was like when you had Darwino on the show, and he said, people don't always tell you what you want to hear, but it's what I needed to hear, because I was like, all right, I need to do some work. Because my options were either be a guitarist exclusively and do BVs and get other singers, or get my act together and really start working on my voice. Because like I said to you before, guitar had always come first to me. Singing came so much later. I always struggled to get the singing to keep up with the level that the guitar was at. So it took a lot of time. And Australia's Got Talent was a big motivating factor in getting my voice to a decent level that I would be confident to sing in front of people. And I still didn't think I was anything special, but that first audition, like I said, it was the right thing at the right time. And all of a sudden it's on TV, and then it's on YouTube, and a few weeks later it's got 6 million hits. I was like, okay, wow.
So what was the mindset? How'd you deal with that?
With the popularity of it?
Yeah.
Well, it was all really good feedback, and it was the first time that people were actually really saying to me, "Oh, man, this guy's got an incredible voice, and man, you should win the show." And so that, I think you need those reaffirming validations of what you're doing every so often. I mean, you can go for a long time without getting any, but they're really the things that push you to go, all right, I'm on to something here, I'm on the right track. And I really thought, just as like when I was in original band, I thought we would be the next Fall Out Boy or whatever. Then at that time I thought, oh great, I've made it. Like Sony's involved with this show and they're going to sign me. And there was some great things that came out of it. Like I found myself on the morning show one day playing one of my arrangements, and I found myself at the Cole Clark factory talking about them doing a signature guitar for me.
Okay, I just want to mention the Guitar Speak podcast and Matt. People, I will link it in the show notes, but Jay's done a couple of interviews on the Guitar Speak podcast. I was listening to one of those interviews today, and you didn't name that company.
Oh, I didn't?
Nah,
Okay.
You said, I'm not going to name their name, but they had a signature line guitars. So I just heard you say the name, and I went,
Well, I was dealing with Brad Clark, who's half of the name, and he's since left the company. There was some bad blood there or something.
Right.
I don't really know what happened. It was just one of those things where you're on the show, and Brad came to the first. I think he came to both auditions actually. He came to watch me perform Down Under, and he loved it. He came, I think, to watch me do Run to Paradise in the semis, and so we were talking. I had these ideas that I wanted it, just like this guitar here. I wanted an acoustic that had an electric pickup, so you could blend, so you could have acoustic sounds and then also plug into your amp. And there wasn't this. So this is called a Godin or a Godin. Mm-hmm. It's a Canadian guitar. There's not really a whole lot of guitars that do this. And being an Aussie and being with this Aussie brand, and I really liked the sound of the Cole Clark pickup. I wanted to have a Cole Clark hybrid that would basically do what this does. And we went back and forth, and then I didn't progress any further in the show, and then their communication just kind of cut off.
straight away, nothing.
Oh, just kind of, they call it ghosting these days in the dating world. You just start, instead of hearing back every day, all of a sudden you're hearing back every 2 weeks or not at all, or every month, or they're not picking up your calls. And it could have been related to that Brad ended up not being with the company anymore. So
I see. Okay.
There could have been some issues there. Mm-hmm. And then, some new person comes in, like, well, who's this guy? I don't know him. So I had the relationship with Brad, and it's kind of a shame, but those things kind of sting at the time when you're a young, impressionable 23-year-old and you're excited about these new connections. And then
that's a couple of early hits too, with your band breaking up and thinking, and then getting shit on by those people losing that money. Yeah, yeah. And now, I can't imagine because you got popular really quick. Whole country knew who you were. I found out who you were
back then.
Back then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you see it on the telly?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
It was awesome, man.
Thanks,
really
man.
Good.
It's funny because of the YouTube video, I get more people saying that they have seen it online than have seen it on telly.
Yeah, no, I watched it. Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. That would have taken the wind out of your sails for sure.
Yeah, it did. But there was so many positives with getting that validation, and just knowing that all these hours I've put in, which was a lot. There was a lot of obsessive practice. Like, I'm the sort of person that, like, if I've got to play a song and I know I have 2 or 3 months to prepare, that's the only song I'll listen to in those 3 months.
Right. Okay.
I'm not exaggerating. Like, I'll have it on repeat in the car. Okay. I'll have it on repeat in the gym. I'll come home and I'll play it 100 times. Okay. Like, I'll obsess. When it's something on that level, when you know that potentially 2 million people are going to watch it. And this was the first opportunity of that scale that I had. So I wasn't going to let it slip through my fingers. And that's been my mentality ever since. I think that taught me good discipline, because ever since then, anytime the door opens a little crack for me, I try to really, make sure I kick that door down. I think that's really important, because the last thing you ever want to do is be able to say, I could have probably done better. I don't want to ever be able to say that. Yeah. Yeah. Whether it succeeds or not, you've got to focus on what you can control, and what you can control is your preparation.
Yeah.
That's really it. And if everyone shits on it, or you get trolls, or it goes well, or you get to the finals of your whatever you're on, or you don't, you can't control any of that stuff. You can just only control your own preparation, really.
Did you find yourself reading all the comments that you were getting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of the so 6 million hits is spread around a few uploads.
Yeah.
So there's one with about 3, there's one with about 2, and then there's a few others in the 100,000s, and most of them are uploaded by me. So I had control over that, which was a good thing, because the trolly comments I could just delete and ignore.
Them. Right.
And surprisingly, like out of 6 million views, I would say probably like conservatively maybe 5 to 7% were hateful, mean things. Right. So it was a very well received audition. But then you're going to get those people like that just don't like you and they want to bring you down. And the one thing that every musician has in common is that not everyone likes them. No matter if you're Eric Clapton or if you're Robin Ford or if you're Santana, it doesn't matter who you are, not everyone likes you.
Yep.
And that was a easy, quick way for me to learn that you can have this video. I don't know if you went and looked at it now, that it's got the thumbs up, the thumbs down. You know, there's a few thousand thumbs up and there's probably, I don't know, a few hundred thumbs down.
Right. Awesome.
You just have to cop that. Not everyone's going to like you. So, and some people are going to go out of their way to tell you how much they don't like you. And if they want to do that, like, you know, good on them. Trolls will be trolls. Haters gonna hate, as Taylor Swift once said.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm in a band. We released a song a few years ago, and we got this one troll message on one of the Instagram posts or something like that, and one of the guys in the band took it to heart. So he made this video. He just made this video and just shot down this troll. You know.
Did you let it affect you or?
Oh, I laughed. I laughed about it. Yeah. It's quite funny because I think I wrote like a really happy reply comment.
I love doing that.
Yeah, like, I mean, thank you for taking the time to blow and have a lovely day and that kind of thing, and appreciate you taking the time and maybe have another listen, you know. But yeah, my other mate, he made this video and just shot this troll down, and oh man.
It's funny, like that approach. a lot of the time, I think people think they're anonymous, and even like now my thing is like posting guitar lesson videos.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, so and I'll post them, and because I'm trying to help, I think I usually get a great response. Again, probably like a 95% good response. But you're going to get the trolls, and it's funny, like I don't know if they don't think that I read it or something, but they'll say something. And then I'll just say back, you know, thanks for your feedback. Cheers. Have a great day. Good luck with your music career.
Right.
Something sort of like a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but nice. Like,
yep.
Oh, best of luck with your playing, mate.
Yep.
And then a lot of the time they'll respond to that and like retract what they said. Like, oh, sorry. I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. So I think a lot of the time there's that thing where they feel like anonymous or like they feel invincible or maybe they don't think that the person in the video will actually read what they wrote. Because, you know, if they go and insult a Lady Gaga video, chances are she's not ever going to see it.
Yeah.
But when they, you know, someone like me who's self-promoting, I read all these things.
And that's funny because when anybody does reply to one of their comments, it goes to the top.
That's it.
To the top of the list.
Yeah, the more likes.
So the next person that gets there, they're going to see.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah.
I heard something interesting. I think it was Louis C.K. was saying that this sort of social media generation is a generation without empathy, because in his day and in my day and in your day before internet, if you bullied someone or if you were mean and said something hurtful, you'd see their reaction in their face.
Yep.
You'd see them cry or they'd get angry, and that taught you empathy. Like, oh, if I call this person a such and such, that hurts their feelings, or that, you know, we got that instant feedback. But these days, someone trolls someone, they probably don't ever see what it does to that person. It's out there.
Yep.
It's maybe affected them, it's maybe not, but they don't know.
Yep.
So they're developing this lack of empathy where they can be keyboard warriors, say whatever they want, and there's no consequences to it. And it's a bit scary that it's raised a generation of numb, you know, trolly people. And I see it all the time. I scroll through my news feed, there'll be those sponsored posts, whether it's a personal trainer or someone trying to sell their guitar lessons. Guaranteed that click on the comments, and the top 3 or 4 comments is probably going to be some person putting them down. Right. It's that tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this person's trying to get themselves somewhere. Let's cut them down.
I haven't had one negative comment on my podcast yet.
Oh, that's great.
I'm dreading the day I get one. No. Just kidding. You made it through to the semi-finals, is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. Now, when you didn't get through, how did you handle that? And what sort of happens backstage straight after that and the next day? Are you kind of like, well, thanks for coming, you're gone?
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Always been curious as to what happens in those situations.
The show was very new, like 3rd season. It felt really disorganised and poorly communicated to me. I guess part of that is that they have to keep certain things in secrecy, but I really wasn't told a whole lot throughout the whole process at all. It was very like a couple of emails back and forth. Oh, what song would you like to do? Oh, I might do this. Yeah, do that. And the same thing with not being on the show. Like we did our semis. One person gets through, and then the other person that gets through is decided by the public. So we're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and we don't hear anything. And I didn't hear anything until the day that the show went to air. And I was still thinking, well, could it be me? And then the show went to air, and on the show that went to air, they went to someone's house and knocked on their door and like, oh, it's you. You're the one that's. It was a guy that played a saw, like a bandsaw sort of thing. So he was the one that got the spot. But so I found out just the same time that the rest of the public found out, basically. Just kind of, I guess there's non-disclosure and secrecy that they have to keep, but that kind of sucked. It's not the best way to find something like that out.
Yeah.
Turning the TV on and find out that you're not making it through.
Shit.
It's the nature of the beast. And most.
So you weren't actually at the studio.
No, I was
next to the person, and
so what happens is, like I said, 2 people from each round go through.
Right.
One person is chosen by the judges,
right,
and the next person is voted by the public.
Which you're at home at the stage.
Yeah, because it's all pre-taped.
Oh, right. Okay, got you.
So we did these tapes months before, and then they go to air, and then there's a few weeks waiting for the public to vote.
Oh, right. Okay.
And every day, I voted for myself a few hundred times, but every day you're just waiting to hear something, and you don't really know anything. And I think the communication has probably gotten better now. When I did the voice recently, and it was like a well-oiled machine. It was the complete opposite of that. Like just interviews and emails and the people you can call, and there's a psychiatrist there, and it's just a completely different experience to what I had the first time. But I think, these sort of shows were just new, and they probably didn't know that the psychological effect that it can have on someone coming up and coming out of it. So yeah, I think it's improved.
Yeah, that's cool. So where to straight after the Australia's Got Talent? Kind of like a rebuild, get yourself.
Yeah, well,
because you would have been hanging on, just waiting, couldn't make plans.
Yeah. I'd said no to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A couple of good things that came out of it was doing the Run to Paradise song. I connected with Mark Gable.
Right.
And he had asked me to do a tour with the Choir Boys as their guitarist, and I had to say no to it, which is kind of, that was one of my first big doors opening at the time of it could have led me down the road of being a great session player. Right. But because of everything that was happening with TV, I couldn't commit to what he was asking. Which was a shame, but again, ended up coming full circle, and I ended up doing some more stuff with the Choir Boys much later in life, or quite recently. So it was just, coming out of that show and like, all right, here's what, on the positive, you've got this video that's gone viral, you've made some connections with some labels and some music brands. Now what? And I think people that do these shows probably don't have a plan, and I didn't really have one either, but I just came up with, I've got to market myself, got to get an agency, got to start doing gigs, I've got to use these, I've got these promo videos that if I tried to film these myself, they would probably cost $30,000 a piece, easily.
Yeah, right.
So, 6 or 7 camera shoot, and
Yeah.
that would cost you a fortune to make those. So okay,
Did they say you can have this stuff and do with it what you like, or not?
they didn't say I can't.
Okay, that's cool.
No, but you upload it to YouTube, and then it gets picked up by the creative license of Fremantle Media or whoever. Like,
Okay.
they've got algorithms in there that can sense the copyrighted material.
Right.
So if it's not allowed, which the stuff from The Voice, they're pretty like, if I upload something from The Voice to YouTube, it gets muted or taken down straight away.
Right.
So I guess
So you need separate permission.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess they own all that content, and
Yeah.
they don't want people sharing it, which is however they want to operate. But every time I've uploaded the Channel 7 stuff, there hasn't been. The only thing that happens is I think the Men at Work aspect of it gets so that Colin Hay will get the royalties or whatever. So it picks up the copyright of the song, but it doesn't pull down the video.
Right.
Yeah.
Just on the Colin Hay thing, he I read in your bio that he heard that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he actually speak to you himself?
Yeah. Well,
Awesome.
so what happened is that's the other thing with me is like I'm very I guess persistent and pushy and I didn't have an agent for most of this, so I would just try to network. And when I was playing Mark Gable's song, I reached out to him. I said, "Man, I'd like to sing Run to Paradise on telly, and would you like to meet up and could I have a chat with you?"
Right.
And same with Colin Hay. I reached out to Cecilia Knoll, who's his partner, his wife. This was through MySpace at the time. And I had done the Down Under, and I just sent through the YouTube clip to her, and I just said, I've just done this thing on TV, and it's done quite well in Australia, and I'd love it if you could show it to Colin and let me know what he thinks. And she wrote back a really glowing message. She said, Colin and I both loved it, and
Oh, great.
so proud of you, and that's fantastic, and keep in touch with us, and good luck. And then he actually played just here in DY at Lizottes, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
But probably 2012 or something, a few years later, which is a very small venue, and he did the meet and greet after, and I just went up to him and I said, "Hey, Colin," and I just said, I was really nervous. It was one of those fanboy moments because he had sort of gone through a similar thing, obviously at a super global scale, that Men at Work was the biggest band in the world, and then all of a sudden they were gone and they're broken up, and he went from playing, Rock in Rio, 80,000, 90,000, I don't know how many people, to playing at the Bridge Hotel to 7 people.
And then all the copyright stuff.
Yeah, and
then
then Greg Ham killing himself.
Yep.
So he'd gone through this process of having the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, and then rebuilding himself as a solo artist. And he's done really well at that, and been able to actually make himself into his own brand.
Well, dude, he plays in Ringo Starr's band now, man.
There you go.
What?
Yeah, the Ringo Starr all-star
this photo,
band.
yeah, with Lukather and Greg Bissonette and Colin Hay and Ringo Starr on Ringo's private jet. Good on him.
It's not a bad gig to get.
No, not at all.
He has this great story where he's like, he says he'll pinch himself sometimes, and he'll look over at Ringo on the drums, and he'll be like, they'll have this telepathic moment where he'll look at him and he'll be like, "Wow, you're Ringo Starr." and Ringo will give him a look back that says, "I know."
So true.
Yeah.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
But yeah, so I got to meet him at Lizottes, and I just nervously went up to him and I said, "Do you remember like that guy that played Down Under on Australia's Got Talent? Did your wife ever show you that bit?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. That was brilliant." And I was like, "Oh, that was me." And he's like, "No way!" And just had a little chat with him, and
Great.
he was very warm. And if you ever seen him in interviews, he's a total sweetheart and
Yep.
super witty sense of humor. And he remembered me and asked me what I was doing with myself. And there's a small chance that I might get to play the song with him next month.
Wow.
He's coming here to the Enmore in April, and I've connected with his publicist or person that does his web management, a guy named Raphael, and just floated the possibility of like getting up with them and doing that. So fingers crossed. It might not happen because he's bringing out the whole band,
Right.
which I thought he might be just doing the solo thing.
Yep.
But anything like that comes along, those things are awesome, and I'd be super happy if something like that could happen.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So back onto the rebuild after the
rebuild.
Yeah.
Well, the rebuild was just back to reality. Like, what do you do with your life now? And I thought it was going to be all glamorous and Learjets and fancy hotels, but the reality was pub gigs, which a lot of people that come off those shows, they end up doing all the same gigs as me anyway. And it's no shame in that.
Probably a little bit different because your profile's raised now and people would specifically be coming out to see you. And
Yeah, it definitely helps. And like I always say to people, you know, if there's 10 bands being submitted for whatever corporate gig it is or a festival or whatever, and you're able to, you know, have in your bio, you were on such and such TV show.
Yeah.
That always is a good little foot in the door.
Of course.
So I think it probably did make life a little bit easier for me in rebuilding. But I was just doing every terrible pub gig that paid very little that came along and building up the connections and the network and, you know, years and years of doing that until eventually you can start saying, like I said, saying no to those certain things and doing more of the shows that fulfill you creatively, like the concept shows and whatnot. But so some of the other good connections, so obviously Colin Hay was a great contact, Mark Gable was a great contact, but I also made contact with Boss, the pedal company, because I didn't have a looper going into doing that. I was using the delay pedal. And Boss is just here in DY actually, which is very convenient. And I approached them. I said, I've got this TV audition coming up next week. I don't have a loop pedal. Like, do you guys have anything? So a guy named Jim went over and met him and tried out a few of their things. And it was the RC50 was the looper at the time. And yeah, it gave me a good deal on it. Gave me a Boss strap to wear.
You told the story in the Guitar Speak. Yeah, that's really cool.
So, but that connection was great because, you know, like they stayed in contact, and it wasn't until 2014 that I sort of heard from them again, which is a few years down the track.
Yep.
But I mean, it's just a key thing is to like make good relationships and keep them, and don't lose your cool because you never know when your name might pop up. And it's happened to me so many times where years later something comes along where my name is stuck in someone's head for some reason. And so they called me to go up to Jupiter's Casino in Queensland and play at the AMAC festival, or AMAC convention. It's kind of like a music trade expo.
Right. Was it like an Aussie NAMM type thing? Or
the Melbourne Guitar Show is more like that.
Okay.
AMAC was more for people behind the scenes. Okay. So I don't think it was open to the public. It's for shop owners and distributors and
got you.
Yeah, those sorts of people. But that was cool, you know. I got to meet all the big head honchos of all the big major brands in the country and the CEOs of Boss and everyone, and got paid to sit around and play these instruments all day. It's awesome. Like, it's one of those opportunities that you pinch yourself and you do your best and you hope they'll ring again.
Right.
Which they didn't until 2016. So it was, again, another couple of years later. But and that was the Melbourne Guitar Show thing, which was another, like, incredible thing, like, you know, just being around every good guitarist in the country, standing at a booth, operating, demonstrating Boss pedals, getting flown to Melbourne, getting put up. I don't know, just counting my blessings when things like that come along.
Have you ever had to work a normal 9-to-5 type job?
Once, just throughout the last year of high school. I was a waiter in an Indian restaurant.
Right, okay.
Actually, I did little...
Were you teaching as well?
Yeah, so I was always teaching, so I guess that's a normal-ish job. Mm-hmm. And I did little things like my parents owned tile shops, so I would like work in the warehouse or help them out or little bits and pieces. But the only time I really like had a boss and worked for someone else was this Indian restaurant in Barara, just to get a bit of extra cash. Again, very lucky that I've never had to really do a job. I've never had to work.
Right, cool.
I've had girlfriends that think my life is this ridiculous fantasy, and sometimes I don't really, I guess, appreciate or realise it. But when somebody coming from a very 9-to-5 world gets to view it and gets to live with you and goes, do you know how ridiculous this is that you like sleep all day and then get paid to play music all night? And it's a bit of a, sometimes I feel like I'm in a movie about my life, you know? You're just going along with this ride. You're doing a lot of those repetitive pub gigs, and then the phone will ring and you'll find yourself on a plane, some crazy place, or, you know, playing next to one of your idols or on a TV show. Yeah, it's just some pretty crazy things happen every now and then.
Yeah, it's a trip. Now, tell us about All Together Now.
Well, that was definitely one of those weird moments because, so 2016 I had done The Voice and not gotten through, not gotten very...
Oh, sorry, okay. Let's just step back to that a little bit. So how far did you get in The Voice?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. No, so they didn't...
No one turned.
They didn't turn, okay.
Which was weird because...
And what was the comments after?
Well, the weird thing was that I had no intention on going back on one of these shows, but they approached me.
Oh, okay.
That they needed a rock singer for the show. Like, it was like they have their criteria they need to fill. I was like, yeah, sure. And I gave them a list of songs and they picked Led Zeppelin. Like, they picked the rockiest thing that I had suggested. So I thought, all right, if I do a good job of this, it seems like they've got a place for me. And then they went and put me on like the last day of filming towards the very end of the day when all of the places in the judges' teams are filled. And once their places are filled, they can't really like turn anymore. They can't once they've accumulated their 12 contestants or whatever.
Did you know at the time they'd all been filled?
I think, reports were coming back like, oh, Jessie's just turned and she's only got 2 left. So we knew that it was very sparse. But then, like, if you look at my audition, they aired it at the front end of the show and they've got all the judges are like teasing that,
I watched the thing today.
So a lot of that teasing was kind of strange because in reality...
The Madden brothers and then...
In reality, I think only 2 of them had a spot left, but all of them were like, oh, should I turn? So a lot of that's just for show, I guess.
Of course, yeah.
And I worked really hard on that performance. That was a song that if you had asked me probably a year before to sing, I wouldn't have been comfortable singing it in the original key. It's very, Led Zeppelin, that's iconic vocals there. So I worked really hard on my voice and just listened to the song every day on repeat. Had Chris Cornell's version from the Santana album, had Adam Lambert's version, had the Led Zeppelin version. Just listening to everyone's interpretations and trying to come up with my own. And then, no one turned, which was, again, like, you can look at those things as a rejection or as a bit of a slap in the face, but I chose to, like, have a sense of humour about it and make the little Delta comment. And
what was that? Sorry, I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't? Well, Delta Goodrum commented that she loved what I did and she would love to come and watch me play. And I said to her, you wouldn't fit in at the pubs and stuff that I play in. And she said, no, I mean it. I would really like to. And I said, all right. So does that mean that we have a date? And she said yes, and everyone laughed, and that was kind of the end of it. And then the next day, I turned on my computer and I've got like 150 messages and inboxes and screen grabs, and it was on the front page of 9MSN that this smooth-talking rock star scores a date with Delta Goodrum. The front page of 9MSN. Really? And then it was on the Daily Mail in Australia, and then it was on the Daily Mail in the UK. And it was just all over the place. And like, so it was kind of strange that for a failed audition, something that didn't get through, I got all this crazy publicity.
Yeah.
But again, it's just one of those things where you take whatever they give you and you work with it. I could have stood there like a wet fish and just said nothing and been grumpy and pouted and why didn't you turn, But I had a laugh with them and that bit of publicity kind of. Any publicity is good publicity, I guess.
For sure, man.
Nice little profile boost.
There's a bit of publicity for The Voice as well.
Yeah.
So, win-win.
But I think that was another, big moment of like improving my confidence in my singing, because I, again, didn't really ever consider myself a strong singer. And then they chose that song for me out of my list. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to step up your game to sing that song.
Did you obsess over that?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I really wanted to do it justice, and really wanted to do it in the original key and not be like,
Right.
people that
Oh,
sing.
you got to choose the key?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, no, they were cool with that.
Yep.
We started in E flat. The keyboardist is Scott. What's his name? Scott Applin, the keyboardist in the band, and he organises all the key checks and everything. And they're like I said before, like well-oiled machine. Really, you go backwards and forwards.
Yep.
They have to cut it down to 90 seconds, so they let me sort of dictate the arrangement as well, because it's like a 5-minute song, I guess, normally. So that chopping that down to 90 seconds, you want to get the key bits in there. So Scott was really cool. We started in E flat, and then I was like, worked really hard, and I was like, no, I'd like to do it in the original key. Is it too late? And he's like, no, we'll change it. We'll move it up. And that was great. Made a connection with Michael Dolce, who's in the house band there.
Yep.
Incredible legato style, freak guitar player. Bryden Stace, who was the vocal coach or the performance coach on The Voice. So there's all these great connections that come about, and whether or not you win or lose or get through, like I said, I met Carmel that day. She didn't get through either. And like I said, she's a freak vocalist.
Right.
Her little backstory there was that she was Delta Goodrum's vocal coach. She had taught Delta growing up.
Oh.
So the backstory was going to be like, oh, you taught Delta and now you're singing to her, and no one turned for her. And again, it's like they asked her to come on. Yeah. They wanted this cool little backstory that she was Delta's coach growing up. Right. And then, they embarrass her. They don't press their button. And they didn't even televise her.
Yeah.
So, like, I was, again, sort of a bit lucky that there was some humour in my audition, and maybe that's why they decided to televise it, because it was a failed audition, essentially.
Right.
And out of 180 that they audition, a lot of those tapes never see the light of day.
Yep.
They only generally show the people that are either really good that get through or that are really bad that are going to make a talking point.
Of course.
And so mine had, I guess, the talking point of the Delta thing. So yeah, really, really good connections. Carmel, who I ended up working with, Michael Dolce, I ended up going to a bunch of his guitar clinics.
Yep.
And he's a lovely guy.
All together now. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so that was probably around the same time, 2016. I was doing this Thursday gig at O'Malley's, which is just a pub in King's Cross, and it's weird. Like, some of the coolest things that have happened in my life and in my career have happened at this really crappy little hostel backpacker type pub. So it's not the classiest of joints, but just completely coincidentally, the manager of O'Malley's at the time was good friends with this lady Amelia. She was sort of in the TV business and did some stuff like that, and that she had a night off, so she brought her friend Amelia to come and watch, and I was playing there, and that was the end of it. This is 2016. Didn't hear anything from her again. And then out of nowhere last year, 2018, so this is 2 years later, I get an inbox from Amelia. She's saying, look, we're looking for rock singers for this new show we're doing all together now to be a judge on this panel. And I remembered you from O'Malley's, and, Julia Zamiro and Ronan Keating's involved. And I had sung to Ronan on The Voice previously, so there was a connection there as well. Would you like to, be a part of it? I'm like, yes, of course, obviously. So just really randomly, that like I say to people, you've got to treat every gig like it's like you're playing a stadium. And that night I probably happened to be playing to 15, 20 people on a Thursday night, 10 p.m. till 1:30 in the morning, not that much money. So not a glamorous gig by any means, but those non-glamorous gigs can always lead to other things, which in this case it did, and was a really fun, crazy experience to just go behind the scenes because I'd been, like I said, been a part of these shows a couple of times before from the contestant perspective. But yeah, being on the other side and seeing how it all operates and how the machine works and networking with all these other judges. Mark Gable again, so that was another nice moment. I got to sit next to him on this judging panel after looking up to him for so many years and singing his song on TV. got to be in the studio with Ronan Keating and record the opening track, that was really cool because out of 100 judges, I think only 8 or 9 of us got to be on that opener.
Great.
And so there was this line in the song that required a big belty note, and we were modelling everything we did on the UK version of the show. The UK version had a classical guy going, "I've got the music in me." No, but they wanted a rock voice for that particular line, so they were like, "Do you think you could belt out that note, but like in a sort of an Axl Rose kind of way?" And I think I can do that. So I did my interpretation of that, and they liked it, and got to film a film clip with them. So yeah, pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had asked me like the year before, what are you going to be doing next year? That wasn't high on my guessing list.
Yeah, yeah. And did anything come out of that?
Well, the connections again, are great because you're just surrounded by 99 freaks. I mean that in the most complimentary way.
Mm-hmm.
People in all different specific areas of the industry, but elite, people, Kelly Crawford, who's from High Five, Rhonda Birchmore, who's a musical theatre legend, Jackie Dark, who's a classical opera legend, and Andrew De Silva, who's a Boom Crash opera lead vocalist and Australia's Got Talent winner. There's just hundreds of, or literally 100 of them.
Yep.
And we all actually stay in touch on this little closed private Facebook group. So
cool.
we see what each other are up to. And I've never really been part of anything like that because I think that would be similar to if you were in musical theatre where you're part of this team that does, this community that does the same show every day for weeks or months at a time. And it's a nice feeling. It's cool. So, like I said, I'm usually the one in control with my band, three or four people.
Yeah.
It was cool to be just part of this team, and every day we would do like a group song, so like a 100-piece choir, and that would open each show. And Gary Pinto was the band leader for that, who was in CDB.
CDB, yep.
Yeah. So getting to work with him and just seeing how his brain works. If we do a season 2, that would be awesome. But if we don't, I'll always look back on that as just a really incredible experience.
Cool. And you wouldn't have had that pressure of being a contestant, eh? You just,
that was great.
You're part of the crew.
Yeah, like I said, I always obsess and listen to the songs on repeat.
Right.
And there was a little bit of that because we did have to learn these
songs,
choir arrangements. But, there's not the pressure of standing up in front of 100 judges and singing and being judged. I was just part of the choir. So I would learn my little harmonies and memorize them and try to do my best. And the ratings did really well, and we're up for a couple of Logies, and hopefully it gets a season 2 because I think it was their highest rated new show of the year.
Great.
So there's going to be Australia's Got Talent again. They're bringing that back soon.
Okay.
And then after that, because I don't think they'll do both, competing with themselves. After Australia's Got Talent is finished, fingers crossed they do a season 2.
Awesome. That's great. Now, let's talk a bit about your Instagram. You got close to 10,000
getting there
followers on there, and you, like you said earlier, you do free online lessons. And is it your practice, and then you just draw it up on a board?
Pretty much, yeah. You can see the board behind me.
Yeah.
Just kind of started like that, like you say.
And does this come back to, again, listen to the Guitar Speak podcast episode with Jay. You talk about on that podcast the moment where you started filming yourself to put a little bit more pressure on yourself. Yeah, is it that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You said before we started that you hate the sound of your own voice.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. I hate the sound of my own singing. I hate the sound of my own guitar playing. But there's nothing better for you than hearing it back, seeing what it sounds like, completely raw, unpolished, no auto-tune. What do you sound like? Listen back to it, and I'm probably the worst critic of myself, worse than what any troll could say to me. I'll think worse of myself, and I'll hear all the little bits and things. But doing those online videos, it's like it's sort of a challenge to yourself to get better and to hear yourself back and to create. You know, every day you pick up this guitar and it's a blank slate. You can do anything with it. So can I come up with something interesting that other guitarists will want to learn? And the most successful video, which on Facebook got like 100,000 views or so, it was funny because that was like the most simple one. It was just me. Basically, I made a video of about 10 minutes of what was usually my lesson 1 for all my students over the years, which was how to learn the names of the notes on the guitar.
Right.
And because I guess in my non-internet generation, that was sort of really important. But in the internet generation, there's tabs, which is what I used to teach, but it doesn't teach you the notes.
Yep.
It just teaches you numbers and
Number
frets.
and a picture, yep.
Yeah, so I just created this video, and I didn't have the whiteboard at the time, so I wrote it on one of these giant pieces of paper, and it's called Learning the Note Names. And it's just how to, you know, the piano has the 12 notes and the white keys and the black keys. So it's just a really, you could almost show this video to like an 8-year-old and it would make sense to them. How to convert those 12 notes into, well, it's essentially how to see the white notes. And if you can see all the white notes and you know where they are, then you can sort of extrapolate that there's black notes in between all of those. And so I just called this video, what did I say? Something like, learning the note names is something that a lot of guitarists skip. Here is my approach. And it's a 10-minute video, and 100,000, 150,000, I don't know. It went,
yeah.
And that really got me on the path of doing more and more of these videos because got a great reaction. And I realised how many guitarists don't know this very basic stuff.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my videos are like quite intricate and fancy and show-offy. You know, I've gotten a lot of some more advanced students that I help with that stuff. But it's good to, you know, just show people the basics that their generation has been skipping. It's something that they've never really thought about.
Yeah.
They're just using tabs to just learn how to play songs.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's cool how it's sort of building up. I mean, you know, you're giving that content away for free and stuff that you've spent hours and hours on working and you're giving away, which is great.
Well, there's
awesome.
There's that mentality with online marketing is that you know, say for every 5 that you give, on the 6th one you take. So you ask, post a link to your Spotify, ask them to, you know, can buy my album, can buy this PDF of my lesson for $10. So you can always, you know, my Instagram is building a bit slower, but my Facebook page is like 24,000 likes on there. That's my main sort of platform.
Okay.
Because that's long form as well. The Instagram is only 1 minute. So some of these lessons are 5 and 10 minutes, so I can really get my point across. So yeah, I'm happy to teach for free, and I've had a few students come to me for Skype lessons, so I've made some profit out of it that way, but I don't really love teaching on Skype. There's that informality and personalness of it, and there's the delay, the lag. Yeah. But so you can always profit from having 24,000 followers if you want to.
Yeah.
My main source of income is elsewhere, so I'm happy just to use it as a self-motivating tool.
Cool.
And if you can get this thing sounding good enough at this level and then you post it, well, then you've just sort of set a challenge for yourself. You have to live up to that thing. Yeah. Because anyone, you know, can probably be a bedroom shredder and get one really good take, but I want to actually like live up to all that stuff and, you know, and be able to do it consistently. So it's like Michael Jordan used to always say, like Michael Jordan, I was a big basketball fan growing up and still am, and he would trash talk to people. And people thought, oh, he's doing that to get in their heads, you know. He's putting them down. And then they asked him, you know, why do you do that? And he said, well, no, I do it for myself, so I have to live up to it. Yeah. So if he says to you, you know, I'm the best player on this court right now, I'm going to drop 50 tonight. You know, you think he's trash talking them. He's actually trash talking himself. Yeah. Well, now I have to do that. Yeah. So that's kind of the way I visualize it. Yeah. That's great, man. I'll put links to your Facebook and your Instagram and any other links that you want, and you know, all your shows and all that sort of stuff, and your YouTube and all that sort of stuff. Any last sort of comments or messages? Well, there's something that I don't know if I can talk about it because I went for Australia's Got Talent again.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
And so actually the producer of All Together now is also producing Australia's Got Talent.
Right.
And I posted a video on my social media saying like, wow, it's been 10 years since Down Under happened because that was 2009 and obviously it's 2019 now. And he just inboxed me and he said, oh, I'm doing casting and we think it would be a pretty cool story if you came back after 10 years and showed, what you've accomplished.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So I went in and just did the producer audition, which is behind the scene, like not televised. And they'll probably start cutting them down and letting us know in about a month's time. So I don't know if I've gotten through yet.
Jay Parrino, thanks so much for joining me tonight. Having me at your house and soccer practice is finished, so I can't go over and get some tips.
I feel like I've had a great therapy session.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
No, I love it, man. It's good. It was good to meet you, and we've been trying to do this one for a little while.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
Sweet as, man.
Very flattering. You've got some pretty ridiculously talented people that you've spoken to. I've been listening to it.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. Jay, all the best, man, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, man.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers.
Later.